Norway's monarchy is one of the oldest in Europe, stretching from Viking warlords to modern royals. The Viking founders. It all begins with Harald Fairhair, who, according to saga tradition, swore not to cut or comb his hair until he had united all of Norway. By the late 9th century, he became the first king of a unified Norway. After Harald came his son Eric Bloodaxe, who was infamous for his brutality and briefly ruled before being driven out. Power then shifted to Håkon the Good, Harald's younger son, who had been raised in England. Håkon attempted to introduce Christianity but faced resistance from pagan chieftains. In the late 10th century, Olaf Tryggvason seized the throne. A bold adventurer, he used both preaching and violence to convert Norway to Christianity, though his reign ended at the Battle of Svolder. In 1000, he was followed by Olaf Haraldsson, later canonized as Saint Olaf, who strengthened Christianity in the monarchy. He died at the Battle of Stiklestad in 1030, but became Norway's patron saint, giving legitimacy to future kings. Then came 1028, the Danish king Canute the Great conquered Norway, adding it to his North Sea Empire of England, Denmark, and Norway. His rule lasted until 1035, though it was often contested by supporters of Saint Olaf. Next came along Magnus the Good, son of Saint Olaf, who restored stability, and then Harald Hardrada, remembered as the last great Viking. Hardrada fought across Europe as a mercenary, and returned to Norway as king, and died in 1066 at Stamford Bridge, while trying to conquer England, an event often seen as the end of the Viking Age. The Civil War. After Hardrada, Norway entered a turbulent civil war era. Olaf Kyrre, Harald Hardrada's son, ruled peacefully. But later, kings like Magnus Barefoot pursued aggressive campaigns abroad, especially in Ireland and Scotland. Sigurd the Crusader gained fame as the first European king to personally join a crusade sailing to the Holy Land. Around 1107, his successors, Magnus the Blind and Harald Geil, fought bitterly for power, and Norway fell into decades of rival claimants, often with child kings like Magnus Erlingsson and Sverre Sigurdsson. Out of this chaos rose Håkon IV Håkonsson in the 13th century. His long reign ended the civil wars and marked the high point of medieval Norway with stable government and international prestige. Norway's independence declined in the late Middle Ages. The Black Death devastated the population, weakening the kingdom. Danish control. By 1387, the throne passed to Margaret I of Denmark, who united Denmark, Norway, and Sweden in the Kalmar Union. Her adopted son, Eric of Pomerania, became king of all three, followed by rulers like Christopher of Bavaria and later monarchs shared with Denmark. After 1523, Sweden broke away, but Norway remained bound to Denmark. For nearly 300 years, Norway's kings were Danish monarchs, Christian I through Christian VIII, and Frederick I through Frederick VI. During this period, real power was in Copenhagen, and Norway became a junior partner in a dual monarchy. This lasted until the Napoleonic Wars. Unpopular union with Sweden. In 1814, Denmark ceded Norway to Sweden, but Norwegians then briefly declared independence under Christian Frederick. Though forced into union with Sweden, Norway managed to keep its own constitution. From 1814, Norway was ruled in union with Sweden. The Swedish monarchs, Charles XIII, Charles XIV John, Oscar I, Charles V, and Oscar II were also kings of Norway. Though Sweden controlled foreign policy, Norway had significant autonomy and developed its own national identity. Finally, independent Norway. Tensions grew until 1905, when Norwegians voted overwhelmingly to dissolve the union in a referendum. Independence was restored in 1905, and Norwegians invited a Danish prince to take the throne as Håkon VII. He became a beloved figure, especially during World War II, when he refused to surrender to Germany and symbolized national resistance. His son Olav V ruled from 1957 to 1991. Known as the People's King, he was admired for his humility, famously taking the tram during the 1973 oil crisis to set an example. Today, the throne belongs to Harald V, who has reigned since 1991. Under him, Norway remains a constitutional monarchy, where the king's role is symbolic but deeply tied to national identity. So from Harald Fairhair, who united Norway with the sword, to Harald V, who unites it in tradition, Norway's monarchy spans more than 1,000 years of history across Vikings, crusaders, foreign unions, and modern democracy.